Same here. Okay.
Facebook
I'll go over for anybody who wants to continue to linger on, because.
Cool.
Okay, so we're live, but just stand by because Facebook timed me out. We're live on YouTube, but we're not on Facebook yet. So hold on.
Hi, YouTube.
Right. We will begin the show momentarily. Please stand by.
So do the YouTube audiences, do they have a live chat right now since we're live?
Yep.
Cool.
Oh, nice.
Everybody say hi and where you're from. And your favorite new quarantine hobby.
Yeah, a lot. A lot of funny thing I saw just before I came on. Somebody asked people to share what their pet was doing, but only by referring to them as the drunk guy at the bar.
Oh, I saw the coworker one.
Did you? Okay.
Coworkers.
The comment thread was pretty funny, I guess.
Like my coworker won't stop licking himself, and my coworker keeps begging for my lunch. And
yeah, exactly. He just won't get off my lap. I just can't get him up for some reason.
Oh my God, I missed what that was all about. And it's so interesting. My son just texted me, so I was texting him back. So you got coworkers sit on your lap? It must be some reference.
No, it was there was this post that somebody put on Facebook, everybody tell me what your cat is doing, but only refer to them as the drunk guy at the bar. And Kalyn saw one where it was only referred to them as your coworker. And so, yeah. If you had
about our coworkers.
Oh my gosh! I hope I run into that post because
I'll find it for you, Laura.
That's pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like my coworker won't stop licking himself on the couch. That's what Justin said. I said my coworker won't get off my lap.
All right, guys, we're live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. We are live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to A Werewolf Radio. I'm your host, Justin Deschamps from Stillness in the Storm, and today we have a special roundtable to discuss the implications of what it's like living in a world under coronavirus pandemic. So we're going to get a chance to cover all sorts of cool topics. I think the emphasis will end up being on how we deal with these things at a kind of spiritual, personal level, but really anything is game. So we're going to have a really awesome discussion. As the group that's going to be coming on, I'm going to introduce my first panelist, and that is Neil Gaur from Portal to Ascension. How you doing, Neil?
Doing really well, brother. How's everything with you?
Great. Another fun day here.
Exactly. Good to be here.
And as our next panelist, we have Matthew Mournian from rememberingyourmission.com. How you doing, Matthew?
Very, very good. Thank you so much for having me here. It's truly an honor to see you all once again. That is rememberyourmission.com. And so, yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, Remember Your Mission. My apologies. Rememberyourmission.com. And for our next panelist, we have none other than Kalyn McDonald of Awakening Humanity. How you doing, Kalyn?
Hi, Justin. I'm great. How are you today?
From good. Another fun-filled day.
Right.
And last but not least, we have Laura Eisenhower from, I'm sorry, what is your website again? Cosmic Guy, yes. My brain flipped it and I threw everything out.
From the Never Lands.
Right.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be with all of you.
Yeah, so today we're going to get into some interesting stuff. So first, really, I think we should just go around the room and talk about any personal implications we might have, any little topics or nuggets of wisdom we might want to raise. So I'll begin and get the ball rolling here. I've been going for walks in the morning. This is something I tend to do anyway, but I've been so busy lately, I haven't had a chance to do it. But I just started this week, and I've been seeing so many people outside walking, being normal humans, talking to each other, smiling at each other, waving at each other. And so I wanted to kind of start by dropping what I think is a piece of good news onto the table, which is that, this coronavirus pandemic, the situation, whether you believe that there's a virus or not, what's happening to our world cannot be questioned. Society has been radically changed. People's way of life has been radically changed. And anytime there's a massive change, anytime there's a lot of uncertainty, you can either go down a dark path or you can go down a light path. And what I'm seeing is what I would call the virtue of cheerfulness really being embraced by a lot of people. People are, with the time that they've been given, with this new opportunity, are actually creating a lot of amazing positive goodness. I mean, one of the things I also have been seeing on a website I share a lot on Stillness in the Storm is Good News Network. There are people who have been putting food out in these swap bins all over their neighborhoods, so you can not only get like toilet paper, but like cans of food and things like this, no charge, just take what you need. So as far as I'm concerned, I think there's a lot of good things happening, and I think we all could benefit from that example. Anybody want to add their own story to this discussion?
Yeah, I'll go. I didn't realize how many people had dogs. Well, I guess I always knew, but I'm seeing them everywhere now, and I'm definitely seeing kids in the family walking, people taking bike rides, and I think this shows how resilient humanity is, and also that people were waiting for a break, because I spoke to a few people, and I literally say, like, to my neighbor, to someone who owns the art gallery behind us, and other people, how's quarantine going for you? And the answer I've been getting is, I haven't had a break in so long, so I'm kind of enjoying it. So it's giving people a moment to stop and not have to be responsible for anything, because right now, as we can tell, like, the government is frantically trying to figure out how to support everyone, and all these businesses and banks and every organization and company is basically reaching out to the people to see how they can support people by doing things like stopping your transaction fees, or whatever, like basically trying to provide a resource. And I'm getting emails every day from organizations and companies I'm a part of that are giving me offers and benefits that are actually helping me out. So right now people don't have, yes, we have the looming thing of the coronavirus, and a lot of people that aren't in the know about maybe what it is, but they just think that they might get sick from it. That's definitely a fear for a lot of people, but at the same time, I'm seeing people like show compassion, take care of each other, let the other person go by. The traffic has slowed down. People aren't as aggressive on the road anymore. People are letting other people pass. So it's just slowed the pace down a bit. And many institutions and businesses are doing what I feel they should have been doing all the time, coming from a heart-centered compassion, right? And this is the reason why I believe. I think that when you are sick or you have cancer or something and you contact a business and say, hey, I can't make my payments, they're pretty much going to say, well, tough luck, you got to figure it out. But because we're all collectively going through the same thing, and they're people too, everybody is stepping up now to be able to support each other. And it's pretty unique experience that we're all collectively going through this together and having to spend some more time at home, take a break from daily life. So I feel that it's refreshing for many people, and it's kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm noticing the increase in leisure is having a really positive effect on people. Matthew, what have you noticed in your world? What's been going on over there?
Thank you. To be honest with you guys, and some of you guys out there are going to be like, what? When I say this, but in my opinion, this is the most amazing time we could have ever chosen to be alive, living on this earth, no matter what is happening right now. We are literally living in the choice point at the beginning of this creation of a social memory complex in which each individual right now is being faced with our shadow, with that internal realm. We're watching the changes happening with the people on the street. I'm just like you, Justin. I'm walking down the street and seeing people, the same people now, day after day in the morning, and they're walking their dogs, and we're like, huh. And all of a sudden, you find yourself going, hey, how's it going? And there's somewhat of a frequency, a jagged edge seems to have dropped from the people and the eyes and the faces that I'm seeing out here in LA. Yet at the same time, we are also seeing an absolutely equal amount of what I could call a predatory frequency in the eyes of people. And just the other day, my wife and I were walking down the street, and this woman from at least 20 feet away was like, don't you come anywhere near me or I will cough on you. I'm literally, and for real. And it was so random and crazy. All we could do is just kind of laugh and go, okay. And you just sort of walk on. And yet at the same time, we have also seen, like the beauty of people finally sitting on the sidewalk and having lunch and just chilling and hanging out. So it's equal parts dark and light, at least where I am right now. But one of the most beautiful things I think we saw just this last night, we were on a walk and it was about 9 o'clock. And we passed through this area with a bunch of apartment buildings, and suddenly, out of nowhere, everyone broke out in applause. And they were cheering. And it was, honestly, it was a truly beautiful moment in which everyone's going, what's actually happening? Whoa, like, what are we doing? Like, holding up your phones going, wait, hold on, like, what's going on? But it was a really amazing moment. So I've been seeing both of those things, the dark and the light. It's a beautiful time to be alive. So thank you.
Wow, very inspiring.
I love that you brought that up, Matthew, because that's what I was sitting here thinking, and I was like, you know, Justin, what he said was inspirational. Neil, I adore that you like kind of coalesce the global empathy, you know what I mean, into that phrase, like into that statement. Like we are empathetic on a global scale right now, which I think is incredible. But I was sitting there thinking, I've seen a lot of dark right now too, and that just had like my frequency, like where I am and where I'm being called to be of service right now is in a very third dimensional, like the 3D plane, you know what I mean, to where sometimes I have to remember to connect up. But at the same time, even on that plane, I have seen some of the most compassionate kindness, you know what I mean, to the point everybody knows I live in a van with my dog. Well, I work with Edge of Wonder, and so I was actually supposed to be in New York at the end of March, but we made the decision the night before. Very good life choices, by the way. For that. Right, for me not to go to New York. You know, and so at the very beginning of this like global, you know, uncertainty, I found myself displaced. You know, I didn't know if I should leave or stay in the city or go out, you know, back on the road. And it was just too uncertain at that time, to the point where I was overwhelmed and I didn't know what else to do. And so I actually put out on Facebook, help, basically an SOS call. And I had people reach out to me from all over the country, tell me I had places in so many states. I ended up in a stranger's place. They're not strangers anymore, but, you know, connected through somebody that knew me 10 years ago. Like, so I've seen the best of humanity. I was at a house before I left to come to Yuma. I was at a house where there were 4 very large vehicles in the driveway, my van being one of them. And their cars got broken into that night, and 2 more houses got broken into that night because apparently in Phoenix people are going around trying to find guns. Like there's guns. Like there's just this, so they're going through like glove compartments and, you know, things like that. So it's the reality is that both are here right now, you know, and it's very much connecting into both and holding space for both, you know, as that's just kind of where I see it right now.
Yes. Very interesting. I found the same in my own experience. Laura, what are you observing in your world? I'm sure you've got a bunch of insights.
Gosh, yeah. It's a total mixed bag with clients, with what I'm seeing, with what's coming up just, you know, personally and in the family energies. And what's amazing is it's all about like, what do we do with this? As we see information coming at us, what do we do with this? As stuff erupts from within ourselves and starts to, you know, come up, what do we do with this, right? So because it's a mixed bag, and because, you know, there's different agendas, different personality types in terms of how they react to such a thing, all different, like, you know, viewpoints are out there, but that's like the diversity of, you know, art and music too. So I look at it like, okay, integration of fragments, looking at the negative, but knowing that if there's a negative, there's a positive, because, you know, there's a spectrum of frequency and there's going to be a whole bunch of things in between the positive and the negative. So if there's negative, what is the inspiration here? And if one is polarized too much to the light, you know, is there denial? Where's the shadow work need to be? And so, you know, just feeling into the natural rhythm of what's coming up is the most important thing. And that is very, very organic to you, you know, that we all kind of like shut down, you know, the electronics. I mean, they're probably going to shut down on us, and that's why we're all gathering. But just to really be able to get quiet and listen to our own inner voice, because when we can see all these different ways of, you know, dealing and all these different scenarios of like what this means, where it's coming from, and there will be some, you know, solid facts that we can all agree upon. And we already have a lot that we already agree upon. You know, it's that polarity integration, because when we can like be the weavers, when we can be the integrators of these polarities, then our expression and our actions actually birth the new world energy, and we're in direct alignment with the ether and the source energy and our higher self. And so that generates into the collective consciousness. And so, one of the big things is that we're dealing with Mercury is conjunct Neptune right now. So it's all about the throat chakra. What are we saying? What are we speaking into the world? Does it have a healing effect? Are we triggering people? And if so, can we self-correct? Can we be humble? So everything's about the throat chakra and what I'm noticing, but also really appreciating how everybody's coping, how everybody's dealing, and looking at it as an opportunity to, really hold space. And, if something needs to erupt, to let it erupt so that one can find, the real essence of, connectivity. So I've been using a lot of herbs to help with that. And I just feel like really like solid and the flow, I guess. And I know those are two different type of elements, being solid in the flow, but like, I guess like feeling like I'm riding on a, surfing the waves in a canoe. Yeah. So yeah, really throat chakra stuff for all of us. What are we generating into the collective field? Because we are dealing with the showdown. What is the power behind our words? What kind of words are we choosing? So I've just been paying attention to that with everything and everyone.
Yeah, I want to echo the same thing. This situation for me personally, I've actually been more busy than ever because I'm trying to cover a lot of what's happening, do these shows with Neil, and also I've got my show with Into the Storm on edgeofwonder.tv. So all of that's still running on top of there being a global pandemic going on. So, the situation for me has been, I've been kind of pulled in 50 directions, and that initially was really stressful. However, I decided that I was kind of in more of a reactionary state than a balanced and centered space. And I decided to take some time and to pull back, and I actually took a week off of Into the Storm, I should say. And it gave me a lot of opportunity to gain some focus. And in that space of focus, I found the choice point again, which is how we can actually choose to react, I would say. So I think it's a great opportunity for each of us to reflect in that way. So I had some thoughts about some topics. This for the audience, this is very impromptu. It's not like we had a 2-hour powwow before this or anything. So we're going to just go for it. So the thought popped in my head, and I want to just put it to all of you. Let's kind of discuss, if you're interested, you can pass on the question if you want. There's a big elephant in the room that I think we should probably address, which is that there's some people who don't believe there's any coronavirus, there's no deaths, there's nothing happening. It's all just a psyop, it's all just lies. Every nurse out there who's working in the hospitals, working for the deep state, all the kind of things like that. And then there's another side, I won't necessarily say it's another group, but another side that believes that there might actually be a virus, and then there might actually be something happening. So I want to give each of us a chance to kind of speak to that, what your personal perspective is, what you're seeing in the collective as far as how people try to deal with the question of what we're actually dealing with. And to start that conversation, I'd like to go to you, Kalyn, because I think you'll have a lot to share in this regard.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. I definitely will kick this conversation off because I'm kind of, me and my neck are right out there in the community right now, currently on a few different pages over this topic. But I did want to just circle back to one thing Laura had brought up, because she just mentioned that she's been turning to herbs. And that's one thing that I have noticed in the last few weeks that I have gotten, and I don't know if this is a collective thing, if this is kind of happening, but I have personally gotten away from a lot of like herbal regimens or different, turning to herbs, tinctures, supplements, that type of a thing when I have an issue. And for some reason this year, and especially just about a month ago, it became like almost a necessity to do so. Like it was, my body was moving towards it. My mind was moving towards it. Like it was a craving, almost like an energetic craving I was having. So I've turned to herbs a lot as well, as from immune boosters, and immune support to ashwagandha, just to have an adaptogenic, something that kind of, whether I'm right or wrong, the adaptogenic herbs will take, they'll take care of it. Working on adrenal fatigue, because like Justin said, I'm so happy that the humanity is getting their break. I really am. Like it actually, I can tap into that when I need to. However, a lot of us in this field are the exact opposite. Like this is like the busiest time in the world for us right now. Yeah. So adrenal fatigue, that kind of support, but just having having those there are like these little friends that I have that are just like, they're my ground crew. You know what I mean? Like while
I
I'm
need a
out in
list.
the ethers, seriously. So I just wanted to throw that out there to the audience. You know, Laura said it, I said it. I don't know if any of the guys are gonna, you know, echo this when they jump on, but yeah, I think right now turning to the planet is really like it's the mother of all mothers, right? And I think we all need a mom right now, you know, with everything going on as a species we do. So there's that plug for herbals, or for herbs and, you know, and plants. But so yesterday, so first of all, everybody, let me explain that I have my best friend of 8 years is a doctor in New York City. She works in Brooklyn. She works at a hospital. I will reveal that hospital and her name later. I absolutely will not do that right now because for her protection. And until she gives me that okay, because that's her information. She is, I recently posted a picture of a conversation that her and I had one day, last Saturday, I believe it was, where she was explaining what's going on in New York. She is losing multiple patients a day. She's having to, they're out of ventilators. She's working 16-hour days. They have just recently, their morgue has filled up and they have had to section off a part of their parking garage to act as a makeshift morgue. The hospital staff had to start their own GoFundMe campaign to buy protective PPE, personal protective equipment, because the hospital doesn't have it to supply. 30 and 40-year-olds. She just lost a 33-year-old patient yesterday. His only his comorbidity symptom that he had or ailment was asthma. That's all he had was asthma. So she's got colleagues that have it. Her roommate has tested positive for it. Her colleague of 16 weeks, that's how she described it, 16 weeks, just had to be intubated at another hospital. And she said she has yet to see somebody come off of intubation alive. So This is what she's dealing with, right? And this is just her and I having this conversation. I have set myself up to be a support beam for her in any way, shape, or form that I can be. We're very close, right? So I give everybody the background information that I have so we can all start on the same playing field. I am a professional disclosure professional. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like I've worked with a lot of the bigger brands. Like I have my own brand. I do the marketing. I research for myself. I'm here, guys. I get it. I know all the theories that we have. I know why we have them. I know where they come from. I have followed all the same rabbit holes. However, none of our theories can suppress truth. If they suppress truth, then we have to step back and take a wider view and try to get the whole picture so that we can see truth. And me putting out this text yesterday, I spent over 10 hours yesterday being attacked from 6 different places. People telling me it was fake news, that I had doctored a photo. They wanted me to give them my friend's phone number so they could confirm themselves. They wanted me to take a picture with my phone and a location and a timestamp. I was called very ugly names. I was told I was just trying to go viral, that I'm fear mongering. The list goes on, guys. One post in one group got over, probably by now I'm guessing it's about 250 comments. I responded to almost all of them because I was so shocked. The audio, like the community that I have poured my blood, sweat, and tears into for the last 3 years, it wasn't that they were coming at me personally. It was just I was defending the truth. That's what I was trying to defend, the truth, and it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy, and it's still going on. Today. So what I really want to say here is that I feel that with all of my experience, all of my background, all of the amazing researchers I have at my disposal, you four included, you know what I mean, that I get to discuss this stuff with all the information that I have, my intuition is telling me that there's something else going on. Now, I know that all of our theories, there's that going on. I'm talking about above that. There's something else going on, because it's confusing me why we've gotten this like surge of circumstantial evidence piling up that we have, but yet none of them that I have found so far are leading to anything more, like anything definitive. And to me, that's a clue. Like, and I don't understand it. I'm just aware of it right now. And so I feel like there's something else going on. And I feel like that if we don't step back, if we don't come off of our own microscopes to our own beliefs, whatever our belief is, whether it's the children in the tunnels, the 5G, the mass arrest, the 10 days of darkness, the 3 nights of down cell phones, whatever it is, guys, all I'm saying is step back, because I really feel like this attack is multifaceted. Yes, they're attacking us economically. Yes, they are attacking us politically. Yes, they are attacking us physically. Like, I think that this, you know what I mean? So if we think that the virus is fake, or if we are telling people who are giving us firsthand information that they're wrong and it's fake, because we think that the fourth-hand video that we saw on social media somewhere is, because that one fits our belief, that one fits our theory better. You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem. Like, that's where we could honestly like deal a death blow to the disclosure movement. Because the thing is if you follow QAnon highlighted an article from the Epoch Times talking about the 21 million cell phone users that disappeared in the last 3 months in China. So I don't know what's right, wrong, or indifferent, but what that tells me is that there's at the very minimum a possibility that we have a viral pandemic, the magnitude of 21 million people in 3 months. So if we as a community stand on our soapboxes and which I'm on one right now, so I say soapboxes neutrally. You know what I mean? If we stand on our soapboxes and we tell people, if we represent the disclosure community as saying this is not real, this is that, and then something like 21 million souls lost, the possibility of it comes sweeping through our country, that could deal not only what we'd have to deal with, like the karmic liability of that, you know what I mean, like of the souls lost, but also all of our credibility is gone. And part of me is wondering if that's not a part of this chess move. I really don't know. These really all just kind of me speaking at like processing out loud with you guys, with the audience too, like everybody. I just really want everybody to step back from their personal beliefs, whatever it is. And I promise if you do it, I'll do it. Like, I'll step back from mine too. Let's all just step back from our personal beliefs, and truth and it has to be the goal, period. No matter what that truth is, even if that means that certain things we hope are happening aren't. You know what I mean? Like, truth has to be the bottom line. And because that's where our humanity lies, because in truth, like there's a reason they keep truth from us, because then we can't operate at our optimum levels, right? So if we have all of the truth, then we can operate from our highest selves and our highest places. Pretty sure my higher self is telling me I'm done because my mind just went blank. So,
no, but that's kind of the point. It's just like you can't operate from the fight or flight. It's really hard to make choices and make things happen if a person's coming from survival. But we can't really know where to go from here if we don't have full on truth. But we can still navigate through the mystery in our quest for truth. So thank you so much, Kalyn. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Navigate through the mystery in our quest for truth. Justin, if you're not writing that down for a t-shirt idea, I am. That was beautiful, Laura. Thank you.
Justin and I did a show a week ago, and it was basically, we're doing the updates every 48 hours, but this one we went through around 30 conspiracy theories in regards to the virus. It was a show about the conspiracy theories, and it was about discernment, really. It was about the fact that there's so many conspiracy theories, and many of them seem to be valid, but a lot of them contradict each other. Therefore, maybe it's an opportunity for us to not engage in these theories and step back and see what's going to happen. Ever since the virus began, really, I've been getting emails from my website asking me my advice and input on what's going to happen, like straight up phone calls, because my number's on my site, of people like leaving messages. I need to talk to you about the virus, right? Like 2 months ago, and I would. I wasn't responding, and I would just respond to some emails, and my answer would be, I am not the person that released the virus or know the person who released it. I do not know. And whoever says that they know, really use your discernment and try to figure out where they got the information from, and then try to even find out where that person who got that information got it from. You can't just make statements right now. And because something real is happening on the planet, people are dying, and we need to, instead of what you said, I'm gonna really echo what you just said, Kalyn. Basically, if you have been in this field for a while and you are trying to bring down the pedo ring, as soon as they say that this virus is helping bring down the pedo ring, you're down for it. If you think that NASA is never a straight answer and they're straight up fake and they're bringing all this BS to us, and then all of a sudden NASA releases that there's an asteroid and the asteroid's going to take out all the power, then you jump into that theory. So I'm noticing people are jumping onto theories based on where they're at in their life. So for me personally, I am just communicating about what's happening, relaying the facts, and then providing some positivity and some love in these times, right? And I really don't want to make any statement on what could happen because I really don't know. We aren't the ones, we aren't the elite, we aren't the ones that began this whole thing. So we just kind of got to write it out. And my answer to a lot of people is, I'm just writing it out. I'm just going to see where we're at the end of this.
I agree. I would say that from the very beginning, I've had this weird, internal alarm going off all around credibility. And I haven't truly understood it. It's been happening for a while. That's why for some reason, I was like, why am I not jumping on any of these theories? You know what I mean? But something just felt off or different. And now I feel like, because this is the chess move of all chess moves right now from them, that I think that this is so multifaceted. And I likened it to, you guys remember Trivial Pursuit, the little pieces that had the pie pieces, game pieces? Well, sorry, if anybody knows Trivial Pursuit, I just dated myself to be 80 years old.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I feel like if there is a pie coming at us right now, and if we only look in a certain quadrant, that other quadrant it's designed to take us out. So I totally agree with you, Neil.
But the most important thing we have to realize is we are in a powerful ascension window period. And so that holds ultimate dominance over everything. That is the override frequency. So there's a series of powerful catalysts that are going on. And regardless of really where they come from, who they come from, which is important to figure out, it's almost to me less important than what do these things trigger, right? So in this window period, it's the sun started to move through the 13th sign of Fiacus starting in 2010. And that brings in the ether. So what part of the transformation process do we want to be a part of? The shedding snake skin that's just going to crumble? Or do we want to emerge and rebirth and be that butterfly that emerges, the phoenix or whatever? We gathered at a meditation, all of us or a lot of us, with this Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And Saturn has to do with structure. It has to do with the old paradigm. It has to do with authority. Pluto's all about death, rebirth, alchemy, transformation. And to me, sickness, whether it's from coronavirus or any kind of sickness at all right now, is, still kind of ascension symptoms. And the symptoms are, can we let go of the old paradigm programs? Can we let go of the ancestral patterns? Can we really clear ourselves and allow ourselves to flow with what's happening organically? Because the alignments are taking us into something huge. And so if we can ride that frequency wave and stay in our authenticity and be open and flexible to truth and be humble enough to self-correct where necessary, this is massive. So we're going to need these catalysts in order to create the growth periods necessary on this planet for people to take a huge leap. But what I'm getting is that there's a huge, huge resistance and a big, big fear in the unknowns. And the conspiracy theories aren't very stable because, as we see, the community hasn't really been very stable. So it's really hard for people. And I think the holding on for dear life is a part of how we get sick. If we hold on to a relationship that doesn't belong in our life anymore and hold on to it, that's going to make us sick too. I mean, the thing is, when it's time to let go, we need to let go. And physical symptoms come when we're holding on too tight. So I think that's a factor in all this as well.
Yeah, great insights. Matthew, what are some of your thoughts on all this? Do you think that there's a coronavirus, and what do you think about spiritual catalysts?
Yeah, thank you. And going back to the original essence of the question, I will start out by saying, yes, I do believe there is absolutely a real virus. And I do believe I actually have already had it. And it was one of the worst I've had in many years. In fact, it was the exact list of every single symptom that we're talking about in mass media. Does that mean I actually had it? It's kind of irrelevant. What I can tell you is that there is absolutely a real bioweapon contagion, whatever you want to call it. It's absolutely a real thing that exists. Yet at the same time, in the non-physical realms, which is where the majority of my work is, for those of you guys that are like, who's this guy on this thing? The majority of my work is within the non-physical realms, working with that very fourth density energy, and especially the pathways and the energy centers within the human body. And so on a non-physical level, not only are we looking at something that is a real bioweapon causing a physical malady, but we're also seeing an actual mind virus that is taking hold on an additional level. And for those of you guys that want to look up the keyword, it's called Wetiko. Many things have been mentioned about it. So we're seeing a multi-leveled operation that's going on within multiple governments on so many levels that at this stage, the rounds of like conspiracy theory have gone from things that are actually verifiable and very much real, all the way down to this very interesting current of what I call repugnant social media sensationalism, in which people are just running wild with the emotional content and the unverified imagery that is being passed around, which I think gives the very people in this community that are working with real, actual, tangible events going on underneath the surface a very bad name, because it brings us back to this idea that, there's this crazy underbelly, and I think it makes us look like true conspiracy theorists when we buy into any one specific timeline right now. So for me, I've taken a very kind of skeptical view of much of what is happening, yet I cannot deny the realism of the illness that I had earlier this year. And, obviously I'm still here. So that said, in pinging off the discernment signal that Neil was talking about earlier, I think that we are at that specific choice point in our sort of energetic activation here in 2020, in which each individual has the inherent ability to begin working with structures in your body that will allow you to truly understand what is real and what is not real, what is true and what is false. If those of you who are watching are looking for, what's a signal of an actual structure in my body that I can learn about that'll help me improve that skill, it's called your vagus nerve, you guys. And so for those of you guys that are here, start studying it, because it is the pathway and the connection of your gut instinct in your body. And so in order to improve discernment, and from my focus at this stage, we need to focus on clearing and working with the non-physical energy centers, because everything at this stage is viable. And actually, if you guys want to get technical, it's infinite timelines at this point. Don't buy anyone that tells you there's only 2 or 3. But anyway, that's how I see it. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Matt. Yeah. My thoughts on the question about whether or not there's really a coronavirus. I'd say based on all the information I've seen, there definitely seems to be something out there. And what often happens is that people, well, let me rephrase, the media and various interests who have their own agendas on our world tend to take real things and then twist them and distort them for their own agenda and purposes. And as far as I can tell, that's happening at all levels of society. We have China, they're trying to spin this virus as one thing. We have the United States, they're trying to spin this virus as another thing. Then we got the non-conspiracy theorists, if you will, who are, maybe buying hook, line, and sinker into the media narrative. Then you got the conspiracy people who are trying to spin this to meet their personal agenda. Yeah. And so I think there is something out there. Whether or not it's the 12 monkeys end of all world virus that some people think it is, I don't really know. Like a lot of you have already shared, I don't ultimately know what the answer is. And, to speak to the discernment side, and then I'll get into some spiritual stuff. From a discernment perspective, we have multiple data streams to work with. I mean, I study the science of discernment. It's called epistemology. And so when you're looking at what the pros are doing, what people have been doing literally since society has begun on this planet, we have to use whatever resources we have available. So we have gut instincts, we have our own eyes, we have our own ears, so we have sense data. Then we have data that is observed from measurements. So we have these scientific studies that are happening. And all of this adds to the facts that are on the table. And then as people, as souls, now we have to sit there with these facts and try to figure out what they mean. And that's where I think the opportunity for community interaction is. And in order to really play in that greater field, I would say, we have to be willing to be wrong and willing to have an open mind. And so, I would caution anybody who tries to pin a flag of truth into the ground without a sturdy foundation. If they're putting that flag of truth in sand, what's going to happen is that flag's going to fall down after a few minutes, as soon as a breeze comes in and blows it over. So, Laura, you want to jump in with something?
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, Justin. I was going to say, all adversity gives us the opportunity to for us to get to know ourselves better. And if we can just sit with ourselves and see what this adversity triggers, and work with it, that's where our answers lie, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. The thing is, we know how to manage the physical plane, and we understand the laws of the physical plane. The more unseen realms are a little bit trickier, but it's just really important that we tend to those places in ourselves. So if we're going through a huge paradigm shift, first of all, the vibration is going to raise on the planet. A lot of gateways have been opened. A lot of grid work has been done. A lot of benevolent beings and forces have, done a lot. So these surges of high level energy are really, really intense for people. And so then there's the imitation version, which is the AI, which is the transhumanism, which is the 5G, and the toxicity of that and what that does to our cells that can produce something that one might call the coronavirus, which is also being shared. So that's definitely something to look at. Is this really like a virus, right? And so when we look at autoimmune, is it really the body attacking itself? No. It's something about an invader, though, and a virus that the body is trying to fight off. And so then it goes into like implants and AI and parasites, but we're in a parasitic system. So a lot of this work we can do energetically when we look at our agreements and we look at what we're hooking into, and we stop ourselves and take a deep breath and ask ourselves, what belief system do I have right now? And when, we're going through something, how are we addressing it? Are we getting closer to ourselves? Or are we like going into fear and asking somebody else to solve it and giving our power away? So this is a chance for us to get closer to ourselves, closer to each other, even if we have to do it from a distance because of the separation, whatever. But this is a chance. This is a huge chance for us to really grow so that we can ride that timeline that is whatever dimensional number, it doesn't matter. We ultimately want to experience our 12-strand, and beyond. But, it really depends on our minds. If we've been dealing with social engineering and mind control, and it has, moved the masses and convinced people of certain things, if we can break away and step away from that and begin to, connect our minds and connect with the cosmic and natural laws and hold visions for the collective that is something we're in agreement to, we're going to nullify and neutralize the dark weaponry and how the mind control and social engineering streams into that and captures us. So so there is the radiation thing that we need to be careful of. And I think people, besides boosting the immune system to, be very wary of, radiation and, the 5G part. But we can tip the scales, and the more of us, the better. And so, we just have to really go through the processes. There's a lot, to sort out, but this is definitely a time of the energy raising on the planet. And some people are scared, and high vibrations can sometimes absolutely cripple a person. So I think so many different things are coming at us constantly, and we have to decide what channel we're going to tune into and get out of the artificial and the mind control and the social engineering part and start to tune into the channels of the galactic, the cosmic and natural laws, the planetary energies that are throwing us into initiations that are going to strengthen not just our immunity, but also shield us and take us into higher dimensions that actually can transmute this level of toxicity or weaponry. And then we're just going to keep, adversity can help us to grow. Every challenge can push the envelope and push us to the edge so that we find our greatness. And if we keep seeing adversity in such a way, we're going to keep opening gateways and opening up a much, much more powerful override frequency, which is already here. And a lot of people will be able to, connect into it. And I don't think, we're going to, see mandatory vaccinations and things getting much worse, because I think people are realizing, whether they know it or not, that we better get our energy straight and really start to shift this as a collective. This is up to us as a collective. We can't just put it on the leaders out there. This is a decision we're making right now as a humanity, to link up and make something beautiful happen, instead of allow these, power structures to dominate and, give us, false solutions to the problems that they create. So, I mean, it definitely is an individual thing because of how people react to this. Some people are going to be like, oh, thank God for the vaccinations,
Right.
and the mandatory vaccinations. So question is, does that mean bifurcation? Are we going to split off into different timelines? And like, I agree with Matthew, there are multiple timelines. And right now with Mercury conjunct Neptune, we are able to begin to understand that and then find consistency with a vision that we want to manifest through our voice, through the magician, through the throat chakra. And the more we speak our truth and become, real co-creative in this, I don't think we're at the mercy of like what happens. I think we're generating this and we're co-creating this.
I'd like to jump in, and because I want to dovetail like right off of that. And this kind of goes back to like the opening round that we did, the opening question. There are two things that I have experienced. Now, this isn't feel, this isn't think, this isn't, you know what I mean? I've experienced these two things very strongly right now. There is archetypal energy here, and there's creative energy here. And these two things are showing up in very profound, distinct, and big ways, right? And I love, I'm sorry, I don't remember if it was Laura or Matt that said this, but I love that awareness around high vibration, high frequency can be just as detrimental if you're not grounded, prepared, aware. You know what I mean? Like it can have you can have an adverse reaction to a high frequency, as well as, we all know what, adverse reactions to lower frequencies look like. So just really understanding that everything right now is, the universe right now is very intentional. It's very intentional. There's very little gray area, I think. You know what I mean? As far as like bigger directives right now, like everything is very intentional. I'm a fan of using this hashtag Time's Up because I think it is in a lot of ways for a lot of things. I believe Time's Up is like an overarching concept for a lot of things. And that's kind of how it feels right now. Like right now that there are big creative energies coming up and coming out, and you are going to go with it one way or the other. You know what I mean? And again, that's depends on your polarity or where you're at, or, you know what I mean, your groundedness and so forth, a lot of different factors. But again, and then that archetypal energy. So like yesterday, finding myself for the first time in 3 years in this whirlwind with the community, you know what I mean? That I've never really had any, I personally have not really had conflict with our community yet. I know a lot of other content creators have and do, and it's kind of part of, being in the public, but I hadn't experienced that yet. And so coming out and like having this, and it all being around truth, defending the truth, I could feel that I was being called to be of service to this archetypal energy that needed a vessel or, a container. I just needed a container, and my friend's text and my, social media skills maybe was like the container. So I just felt, and I could tell that it was bigger than me. And I could tell that too, because I wasn't alone in it. I had a lot of support on the back end from a lot of you guys, other people that I work with, you know what I mean? That were kind of helping hold me up, because it wasn't me, and it wasn't it was just this archetype was just happening all over the place. And so those two energies, I think, is if you can kind of dial into the awareness of creative energy and archetypal energies, I think that a lot of really profound and cool and weird cosmic stuff will come up for you personally, like personal invitation to the audience, and that's all I got.
Yeah, I really like the emphasis there. What it sounds like to me is we're talking about a choice point and how we want to deal with this situation. And I really like the sentiments shared by you, Kalyn, and Laura, and you, Matthew, as well. You were both, as far as I can tell, or all of you were talking about this idea of choice. And when I think about creativity and archetypes, creativity is an act of choosing, right? And then what are you creating? Well, if we think about it at a very deep level, there's this whole realm of ideals. Pluto described this as the Platonic reality, where there's things already made that you can choose to invest yourself into. In the act of investing yourself in that, it then manifests it for you in your life. So I think anytime we have a chaotic situation, we're given a lot of new choices that we probably weren't expecting to have to make, And for a lot of people, well, let me rephrase. In our current world, we are encouraged not to take advantage of those choices. We're encouraged to be mindless. We're encouraged to go along with the herd. We're encouraged to do what everybody else says. And we deny ourselves those points. But it seems like now all of that has been stripped away to a certain extent. And now we have this greater capacity for choice. And I think for me personally, what I'm trying to do is use this new energy to reflect on the momentum of my past life. Because, listen, I'm a really busy guy. I work like 10, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. So if I'm not careful about the routines that I create for myself, a year could go by, 3 months could go by, and all of a sudden I'm like down this road. I'm like, wow, how the hell did I end up down here? What's going on, And so, how many people are living life on autopilot?
Yes.
Is the world living on autopilot? I think it is. Mm-hmm. And what has this coronavirus done? I'll just leave it at this, and then we'll jump to you, Neil. I know you want to chime in here. Coronavirus. If we break down the word corona, corona is an aura. It refers to the aura of the sun, which is also a reference to a crown, right? So we're talking about Christ energy is one interpretation I'm thinking of. What does Christ's energy do? It has the ability to manifest our true potential, our true spiritual potential. What is this situation doing for humanity? It's causing all of these automatic programs, all of these old habits, this unconscious way of life to just be stripped away. You can't do it anymore. And now we have more leisure time than we've had probably ever in the modern world. And now the years of living your life on autopilot are, they're right in front of you. You have to look at them. And I think this is a really good opportunity. Neil, do you want to jump in with anything here?
Yeah, I just want to say that, from what I've heard and from my research, the largest quantum leaps in consciousness, physically, spiritually, whatever, practically, without government, has always happened during times of adversity. When the largest struggles on the planet have created the biggest changes. So right now, mainstream media to alternative are saying this is unprecedented. Something like this has never happened before in United States history, let alone a global. We haven't been so globalized ever before either, right? We're all going through it together. So I'm hopeful from just looking at the past and the way it's been and how this is larger than anything, because it's the whole planet this time, not just a country or a city, that when we have a choice after this of how we're going to make this new reality look. I've heard people, I've seen posts, I can't wait till things get back to normal. I gotta honestly feel that things aren't going to be the same as they used to be. This has really shed light on how feeble our system really is. Something like this happened and all of a sudden the world is on its knees. Right? Yeah. The medical system doesn't work, the way we run our capitalist society doesn't work, everything is halted. So are we going to continue business as usual and wait for the next thing to happen? Or are we going to make some changes, practical changes, spiritual changes? For a long time, I said, for a long time, like at least 8 years, I've been saying people need to have some time to basically think of something other than trying to survive. And when they get to that point, then we might have a collective shift. Right now, we're focusing so much on the fact that we need to pay our bills and blah blah blah, and we need to get a roof over our head. We need to feed our kids, put them in school. People don't have time to step back and think about the concepts that we do full time. We dedicate our lives to it. We found a way to actually live off this stuff, right? So a lot of people don't have that. So I was actually for UBI for a long time. I was like, maybe we need some sort of universal basic income so that we would have our basic needs met, so people can start thinking about something other than how am I going to survive, right? And so I was like, maybe we're going to get to that someday, or some sort of thing. We need something in order to do that. But instead, this happened, and everybody now has the opportunity to reflect, and it's like a collective dark night of the soul. Who am I? What am I? my work, my job. What happens if everything that I know is no longer what it is anymore, right? Just yesterday, I was listening to a podcast, and a food bank in Dallas, Texas. 70% of the people there have never been there before. The first week, there were restaurant owners. 2 weeks later, there were lawyers, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and they're like, they can't sit with their clients anymore. They don't know when they're going to be able to do that again. And many people, even people making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, still are living paycheck to paycheck because they have families, kids, houses, lives in San Francisco, live in New York, you know what I mean? It costs a lot to live. So it's just put everybody, and I feel many people are reflecting on their lives at this point. What I thought would be a collective time when we just had our basic needs met is happening through this, so that we have the potential of creating something very beautiful after this if we reflect on it and make some necessary changes, so that we don't put all of our eggs in one basket of this is the way society is, we're just going to be working this job 9 to 5. And just like you said, the autopilot that we've been living on collectively on this entire planet has been disrupted now. So now what are we going to do with it?
Great question. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think, that opportunity we have as people is huge. I mean, just one thing to dovetail off what you were saying, I've talked to my friends and family more in the past few weeks than I probably have in like years, And part of me is like, damn, man, come on. Like, you didn't need a global crisis to pick up the phone and call somebody that you love, right? But another part of me is like, we're all kind of on autopilot, It's like, this is where we got to be careful. Like, if one thing to think about is Stockholm Syndrome is getting used to a familiar situation that is not good for you. Just because it's familiar does not mean it's good for you. And right now we're living in a world, to be perfectly honest with you, that is horrific. It's a slave type of a world. It disempowers people. Instead of having the time that we need to thrive and grow spiritually, all the time we have is devoted to just surviving. And then with that energy, the forces of darkness use and harvest it for their own purposes. So, regardless of whether there's an alliance doing mass arrest or there's really a global 12 monkeys style pandemic or what's happening, what cannot be argued as far as I'm concerned is we have an opportunity at our doorstep. What are we going to do with it? Anybody want to jump in on that? Yeah, Laura.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say the opportunity to jump on is connecting to the earth. Connecting to spiritual energy. I mean, this is our grand opportunity. When we look at how our own natural instincts have been tampered with, it's like when a mother is pregnant, it knows what it's doing. The body knows what it's doing. The mother and the child have a connection that is an unbreakable bond. The nature of it all is something that can't be explained. And then caring for that child, breastfeeding that child or whatever, and connecting to the land and growing food and just the abundance of the land. I mean, the thing is, we have to get back to what exists beyond the system, because what we've been taught is not accurate. We've been taught dead sciences. We've been taught false history. We've been taught to give our power away. And if we're having a hard time, we go and somebody, puts us on, meds instead of having somebody help us to initiate through a lot of these different, things. So the more we can get back to what's organic and natural and not fear it, the better off we're going to be, because it's built into us. So when people say do the inner work, it's not just about facing demons. It's not just about, all that discomfort. It's about recovering the truth of who we are and what we're made of, and connecting with cosmos and nature, and realizing that we're abundant and we're going to be taken care of. And when we step into our mission, the synchronicities and the magic that begins to flow is huge. And the people that come together and the resonance, that happens is major. And so, the system is, there's a lot of falsity there. There's a lot of good there. But, the agenda that we have to be careful of is the artificial intelligence component, and keeping everybody, in a small space. So I think that's the most important thing, is to, really trust your instincts and have boundaries. When somebody else tells a mother how to parent their child, when somebody tells somebody else what's wrong with you when you're having a bad day, oh, you're bipolar, you're schizophrenic, it's just like, we need to really have boundaries to the way the society has really beaten us down and abused us and mind controlled and created a lot of projections. We get to determine who we are, and those labels need to go. And we need to identify with things within ourselves that support the transformation process without throwing labels on aspects of the transformation process that actually ends up stunting the growth. So how can we possibly transform if we decide to, take on a label like, okay, we're not going to be able to, continue to, move through the temporary instability because we had a difficult time with it. Now we're being branded for the rest of our life of having a mental disorder. So I think it's really important that we pull back and just recognize that there's a lot of bullshit there. And we need to feel more comfortable with the symptoms that come up and know that the end all be all after a lot of, the difficulty is seeing something like massive, come to the surface, and our true, whole, authentic, divine self. And all the symptoms that rock our world and make us feel like we're dying or getting sick or something's wrong with us are just a part of the process. It's not the destination. And we need to breathe through all that and support one another and remind each other it's not something to be afraid of.
So
Kalyn.
I would just like to, I want to lay something that connects all three. And then I really want to lob it over to Matthew because I'm getting this I feel like he's got some spiritual stuff to drop on all of us right now. I'm feeling it build in him. I don't know. I could be wrong. So quickly, the concept that you guys are talking about, especially Neil, where you started with the survival versus our needs being met. This is literally laid out beautifully in the first book of the Law of One. And they discuss this through the wanderer Tesla, Nikola Tesla. I'm sure everybody's heard of him. That really his mission to come here was to give us free energy to free us up. We are not supposed to work 8, 10, 12, 15, 16 hours a day, right? We're supposed to be here to raise our vibration and ascend to the fourth density. That is our purpose. That is our mission. The oppression, the reason, you know what I mean? Who we're fighting to get out from underneath, the way that they're not allowing us to do that is things like Nikola Tesla. He came in, they knew what he was doing. He found the free energy. They commandeered it. They put a meter on it. Now we have to pay for it. And you know what I mean? And thus began, the slave system, right? So really what you guys are talking about is an absolute spiritual, it's a spiritual concept that is extremely tangible and manifested here on this planet. The fact that we're not supposed to worry about the roof over our heads, the food in our bellies, the bills to be paid, none of it really. We're literally supposed to be here reading, diving into knowledge 12 hours a day, if that's what we want to do. You know what I mean? The knowledge of ourselves, the knowledge of the cosmos, the knowledge of each other, the knowledge of a social memory complex. That is what we're supposed to be doing. And that is what we're fighting to get back to. And I think that's why it resonates so strongly with everybody right now, because they're resonating with the frequency of truth, right? Working 10 hours a day, there's no truth in that. The cosmic truth is that we are supposed to just be. And that's it. That's it. And then the last thing, I had to take notes because I was you guys got me all revved up. The last thing was just the slave system, what you guys were talking about. One thing that came up in the back and forth yesterday with the community was not believing me. So, and it's not about me, but they were not believing firsthand information, and I was why? I had to process that out. I had to figure out why. Again, their discernment process was believing a fourth-hand video they saw on social media versus a first-hand conversation they were having with the person. And I realized that it was about the psyop of building mistrust with the slaves. As long as we don't, this is why anecdotal evidence, which I personally have the most resonance with, I love anecdotal evidence because my mission is with humans, right? That's what I know. So I feel anecdotal evidence because I feel the people sharing their story and sharing their experience. But we have been taught by the dead sciences, by dividing science and spirituality, and by creating mistrust among the slaves, how else do you oppress a people, right? Like, so I just think that those are two really like important things to kind of contain this conversation in, because I don't know why. Maybe it helps, maybe it didn't. I'm not really sure.
I have some thoughts, but yeah.
I'm gonna lob it to Matt now.
So yeah, thank you. In hearing what has been said over the past few minutes, and I've kind of just been taking in like the individual viewpoints and the frequencies and the emotional content here, I think whether it be the sort of frequency of like denial and discernment that Kalyn's talking about, or the third density abundance changes issues and the structural stuff that Neil's talking about, whether it be the emotional, I guess we could say, restructuring with Justin and the energetic stuff with Laura, I think just in looking at those 5 things right there, 4, it is undeniable once again that we are in the great restructuring. I'm now calling it a great restructuring. And if you look at what's going on in April, you guys, not only are we in the new year of an entirely new decade, we're also in, the month of the, that Easter story, in which no matter which way you slice it, there's a day that rolls through this month in which we collectively acknowledge some sort of a regeneration, a revitalization. Things will reboot, whether you buy into the content of that or not. This is the great restructuring. And so, within that, within the time and the inner stuff that we've all been dealing with, for me, this has been the period in which I have been looking myself in the mirror and noticing all the weird triggers and the things and the ideas and the frequencies and the opinions and the stuff that shows up in my own world. And I have been using that to kind of create a bit of a launch point into the next stage of what we're all going to be dealing with here in 2020. And so, if you're one of the 89 people on Facebook that are watching this, look at what has been coming up for you. Look at how you've been feeling. Look at those moments with yourself that you've had over the past few weeks, or those days in which I know each and every one of us here has become very stir crazy. And we start thinking or doing or acting a little bit different. Notice what shows up, because those are the opportunities. And this is just my opinion, so y'all can call me crazy, but I believe these are the greatest opportunities we have at this stage to make the choice, which I think you were talking about in the beginning, Justin. And what is that choice for everyone that's watching through my lens? It is a timeline choice that we are making, in which each and every person, based on the focus we have, based on the prevailing emotional frequency in the body, based on where we're aiming our attention, that's what's going to be bringing us into the next stage of what we signed up for. And so once again, I bring it back to the idea that no matter what's going on right now, this is the greatest time to be alive. And so we could call it mission stage activation for everyone that's out there. But anyway, I will pause there. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. Laura, did you want to jump in with something?
Sure. So we're a humanity. We've been going through all these different stages and eras, precession of the equinoxes, and then we, look at the micro and the macro. The micro part is being a baby, learning how to crawl, learning how to walk, going through puberty. That's not something that we need to be instructed to know how to do. That's something that is a biological function. And so, our hormones and our endocrine system is actually connected to the stargates. Our DNA is connected to the earth grids. Our chakras are connected to the multidimensional cosmos, and same with our DNA. And it's all connected. Like, there's no disconnect whatsoever, except for what we've been taught, except for the mind control. The mind control is the most dangerous piece. So to me, we're going through like a sort of puberty, I guess you could call it. And the more we panic, the less we can allow this to, just do its thing and be what it is. And there's a lot that we're not going to be able to get from outside of us. We have to start relying on ourselves and getting comfortable with ourselves. We've been taught to, wait for instructions, wait for the savior, wait to see that we've won something. And the most important thing is that we can determine what we need to do and what it's going to take to win the war within ourselves, and also to get really, really comfortable with something that we might not be able to explain, but is very, very linked in to something like hugely profound that is pulling us out of quarantine on a planetary level. So as these seals are being lifted, as these fences are being lifted, and we are no longer a humanity that's being quarantined, in a way, having this forced quarantine is giving us a chance to kind of come to grips with it. because we do have the choice to be on that timeline, to really connect to our galactic heritage and experience something that we haven't been able to experience in thousands of years. Question is, can we be really gentle with ourselves so that, we can accept what we might not feel is familiar, and then begin to learn that it's way more familiar than we can imagine, because it's connected to who we are and what we're made of. We have been taught to absolutely become foreigners to ourselves. And so this is just an amazing thing. And I'm probably saying the same thing that I said before, but the quarantine is lifting on the planet. And so, sometimes, and we're going through a big growth period. We're going through a global detox. And sometimes the withdrawal from things like programmings, ancestral patterns in society, telling us how to be and what to do, that withdrawal in and of itself can kill people. And yes, I do believe there's a virus. Yes, there's stuff going on, but we got to look at how easy it is for, a shift like this to be so jarring that just the very shift in itself can lose, people. But then when we lift the veils between life and death, we understand that there's no need to fear death. So the more comfortable we get with our own connection with God source, the better, because ultimately there really isn't anything to fear. What we've been taught is the most detrimental thing. And a new system is going to come about that actually gives us, a real sense of truth, and helps us to activate our DNA, helps us to understand junk DNA, and sciences that are not dead sciences that actually help us to connect to the 0 point unified field and help us to advance this human vessel and shift it from carbon-based to crystalline. That is all coming. So we have to just say, okay, I'm on board with that, and just go, and know that we know what we're doing, just like a pregnant woman knows how to grow a baby. There's things that we don't need to be taught, and we need to get comfortable with our connection with the shifting tides and the puberty of the planet, I guess you could say, but it's more probably not puberty. It's just another level of a mysterious change that is very biological and organic.
100%.
Right.
Kalyn, when we began this conversation, you were talking about throat chakra, and and I think this is echoing through everybody's conversations here, about speaking out truth. And when you first said it, I was like, yeah, I guess I'm always working my throat chakra, but I really didn't think about it. But now, after hearing everybody, I'm realizing throat chakra is authenticity, and people are stepping outside of themselves to be more authentic versions of themselves now, because they can, right? They're given a permission slip to be authentic, right? So, and it's interesting because what's the number one fear on the planet? Public speaking. But what's the second fear? Death. But what's the first fear now? Death. Public speaking the second. So people are now, what are they doing? Going on Zoom calls, talking the truth. People who you never thought were teachers are teachers now, right? Everybody is speaking the truth, expressing themselves, and it's they're conquering that throat chakra fear.
That's so great, Neil, and you nailed it. It's authenticity, and really, our connection to source is in our throat chakra. It's once our throat chakra is activated that we can then use the 6th and 7th chakras. You know what I mean? So people, they're so focused on and Matt, please, by all means, tell me, if I'm wrong or not. But
no, you're not. Please, go ahead.
Okay.
We'll add some after. Go ahead.
Cool. So many people are focused on their third eye, and they meditate on their third eye. And I get it. They miss home. I understand why this happens. They want so badly to connect to their higher self, because it has been engineered to cut us off from our higher selves, that people want that ability. They want to see, they want to be home, right? So they focus on there. But really, the education of it is you got to clear up your throat chakra. Well, really, you got to start with your root chakra. You got to, one leads to the other. It's a system. There's no way around that. But it's my understanding that, really our connection to source is in our 5th chakra, which is in our throat chakra, which is our authenticity. There is nothing more authentic than source, right? And that we are of source. So I think you just absolutely nailed it. And one last thing, Laura, you said, you blew my mind for a second, because I've heard you report on the quarantine of our planet multiple times, right? And the fact that we're in a quarantine right now, I just got the chills. There is no coincidence there. You know what I mean? I know, right? My mind went.
It's the physical manifestation of what is actually happening on the etheric
I know
realm.
what she's been reporting on for years, and a lot of people have. You know what I mean? But that was that was mind blown. Okay, Matthew, sir.
Oh, Well, thank you. Just very, very quickly. First off, I totally resonate with the throat chakra thing. And I just wanted to throw in, I was doing a throat chakra clearing on myself before we even started this call today. So thank you for mentioning that. That said, and for those of you guys that are watching out there and you're just wondering, what are other structures or what could be one of the most active places right near the throat chakra that's actually responsible for the empathic and the emotional buildup that you're taking on from other people, whether it be social media news or the people around you. And this is one of our secondary chakras. So if you guys are out there, Google this. Don't click off the screen, open a new tab, and then Google your thymic chakra, also known as the high heart chakra. Because for many of us right now, that's actually one of the most active places in terms of receiving emotional input and the energy that we get, and then transmits in a number of different areas through the throat, upward, downward, but very, very important structure that is very active on the fourth density energy body right now, and very much responsible, once again, for that mission stage activation, or the version of you guys at home who are sitting here on your phones and you're like, huh, what? That's one of the areas that's responsible for allowing that new version of you that you've been hatching up during this like strange like quarantine period. That's where that energy is coming from. And so, once again, you are totally right, Kalyn. But I just want to throw that little detail in. Thymic chakra, guys.
Very
I wrote it
interesting.
down. I took a note.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to for a moment, and I'm probably going to need to jump here in the next 10 minutes. So, Kalyn, you were talking about discernment, and you're basically alluding to the weight evidence should have. How do we weigh evidence? Why is a study from a bio lab potentially more important than a nurse's first-hand testimony or fourth-hand testimony or things like this? Well, when it comes to discernment, it's one of the core pillars is all about giving information a fair day in court. And if you're not giving information a fair day in court, you're not exercising discernment. It's called bias. It's a cognitive bias. And specifically, the one I'm referring to is called the incredulity bias. So incredible or unbelievable. So, for example, if you have already decided that there is no coronavirus and that it's all a giant conspiracy, when somebody brings to you information that is to the contrary, you say, oh, no, that's not true because of this. But your investment in a perspective is not an invalidation of another person's perspective. Okay? And it's very easy, especially in our world, because frankly, the cabal and the powers that be have stripped away all these tools of discernment from our society for a very good reason, because they don't want you to know how to think for yourself. They want you to believe whatever the crowd is going with or whatever you can think on. And because of that, we've all got these very primitive ways of discerning because we never really were taught. And, not to put myself as some kind of like grand master, because I'm trying to figure it out with everybody else, but we all have a piece of the puzzle. We all have our own perspective to offer. And if we are just open to having the discussion about what the truth might be, then we can all put those pieces on the table together and form a much better picture than if we're all just scrambling to try to, have our personal brand of truth acknowledged as the reality. So, I'm just gonna start the closing remarks portion of this discussion just by saying that I think we all have a lot to reflect on, and the fact that, just to echo the quarantine thing, I mean, the fact that we basically have a spiritual quarantine on our world, which a lot of spiritual materialists said, and now we're in the quarantine, I think is no accident. Before the spiritual quarantine was barely perceptible because, we're all living on Earth and nobody really thinks about anything outside of that. But now it's in it. It's in our living room. It's in our lives. We're having to contend with it. And so now our choices as individuals are literally being highlighted because our choices, the way that the current situation is unfolding, if you go out there and you start coughing around on people and doing all these kind of things, you're not respecting personal boundaries. You're not respecting rights. And you're violating somebody's rights, and now you have to be dealt with. You have to be put in jail, and that's what's happening to some people. I just saw a story the other day. There's people going around and licking vegetables in supermarkets because they're trying to give people coronavirus. So I think all of this is giving us a really amazing opportunity to, like we were discussing, self-reflect look at how we discern truth, look at what we value, and then ask ourselves, what do we want to do with this opportunity? And for me, I'm putting my chips in the let's serve humanity. Let's come together as a human family. Let's take the situation like the hero and embrace the challenges in front of us so we can make this world a better place. So would anybody like to just start their final comments or anything really? Up floor is up to you. You don't even have to leave necessarily, but I got to go in about 10 minutes. So.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go too, and definitely kind of in the zone of, I got the been at the house and staying in my PJs look. It's just so important that we've come together. One of the main reasons why we all came together is in case the internet goes down. And I think it's just really important to, gather and, discuss some things. I think, it's really important that we energize what we'd like to see happen. So I have a newsletter that people can purchase that has a powerful, powerful invocation. I don't know if I should read it out loud. I can just give it to people. That might be better. If you're able to donate, great. If you're not able to, I'll still, get it to you, but whatever. And, if everything does shut down, that we have times that we can come together and sort of telepath and create a field of energy together where we can comfort one another and you just, feel into the connection. So I think that's really important, that might take place. And so I'm hoping to, just, have that, as a resource, for people, with some possibilities. There's a lot of mass meditations going on this weekend, the Pluto-Jupiter, conjunction. But yeah, what we're able to connect into, the most important thing is that we can connect to the creative imagination. What has this quarantine been about? It's really been about not being able to access these higher dimensions because we might make a big mess there. So we are able to have access if we've learned what this human experience is all about, which is actually like learning the right use of power, learning how to, be given the gift of ego and keep it aligned with higher self and soul and earth and cosmos, and not let it fragment away and become captured. So I think, if we, recognize and look at the bigger picture of what all this is equated to, and really focus in on the creative imagination and all the possibilities that are out there, and we hold focused intent, not so much that we have to all, do it the same way or think the same way, but that it supports our health and well-being, it supports our family relationships, supports our partnerships, it supports our children, and supports also like taking down the corruption, the criminals, and the assaults on humanity. But the thing is, we are going to be controlled if we can't step into our own power. When we're not in our own power, something else is going to want to come in. So we're not victims. We just have to allow everything to push us into the ultimate reclaiming of the fullness of all that we are. And the more each of us does that, the less likely anything can come in and feed on it, because there's no frequency match. There has to be a plug and a receptor. If there's no place to plug it in, then we're basically shielded. But if we have that opening, because we believe we need it, or we believe that we can't figure this out for ourselves, then we remain a breeding ground, and we remain harvested humans that are actually powering up these artificial timelines with our own energy, because it's robbing our dreams, it's robbing our visions, it's robbing the innocence of the planet. So I feel really positive, like deep down, I feel really positive. And I really look forward to staying super connected with everybody. And we'll change numbers and make sure that we all, can stay in touch. But I just, hope people, check out my website, because I can get you a newsletter, and my subscribers and, whoever else has seen it, we're going to try and just come together and also read these invocations that help to neutralize implants, help us to step into our sovereignty, and help us to invoke through the throat chakra the very things that we need to be protected during this time. And trust your body. Don't make the body the foreigner. Our bodies, we know what we're here to do. We know what needs to be done. The more we lose that connection, the more dangerous things can get. But denial of truth is not good, and being very patient and kind to one another is extremely important. You know, Kalyn, you shouldn't be dealing with, you know, attacks or anything like that because of, you know, what you need to share. And I know people, there's like hysteria and there's hysteria and survival. But I like what Justin said too. It's like, let's put it out on the table and have mutual love and respect. Nobody's trying to like, you know, be the all-knowing one, but we need to put it all out on the table and have the maturity and the mutual respect to be able to look at it and do our best with it. And I hope that that will continue. And I'm glad that we're able to hold that space together. And that's why I really, you know, I'm so thrilled that we all got together, because I think that's something that we all do really well together. So thank you guys so much. That's my last bit.
Thanks,
Awesome.
You know,
Thank you, Laura. Just to let everybody know, her website, Laura's website is cosmicgaia.org, and you can get in touch with it there. Neil, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I too am extremely hopeful and positive and optimistic, you know, and this is not to say that like I'm doing research every day on who's passing where, what's going on, you know, I'm in it as well, guys. Like I'm not just trying to fake myself here, but there's just this deep underlying energy of like, this is a huge shift and this is a wake-up call that may have been needed, you know, and in many ways we do need a wake-up call on this planet. Right now is the perfect time for people to go within and look within. Many of the people listening to us are already doing that. There's infinite resources out there for you, and you can like, you know, go online and you can check out our events. There's so many other events going on, and people are giving offerings now. Like we have a few speakers that have reached out to me, and normally we do paid events with them. They get their percentage, you know, they get the speaker cut. They're like, are you doing anything for free? Because I want to help out. This is what's going on. The time to step up is now. People are like literally are saying to me that, you know, like, okay, this is it. It's game time, guys. You know, let's see what we can create together. So what I've actually done is I've canceled all but 2 paid events for this whole entire month. And I'm changing them all to free, the rest of them, and we've got you know, 1,000+ hours of footage for everybody on our website. We have 2,300 hours of free presentations on Portal to Ascension, sorted by like Netflix, like presentation, speaker, topic, all that. But I'm also going to do 3, because PTA, Portal to Ascension, we're based on 2 things, or 3 things really. Actually, a million things, but 3 topics: true world history, extraterrestrial awareness, and evolution of consciousness. So I'm doing 3 3-day events. One's called True World History, one's called Extraterrestrial Awareness, one's called Evolution of Consciousness. And they're going to be free online. We'll have 6 speakers every day. And just get this awareness out to people, because people are at home and ready to absorb it. So this is a good time for you to really get the information you want, be in the know, you know, fortify your energy, know how to be healthy. I've been delivering groceries to people, to elderly people, and literally through text message, and I'll leave the groceries on the doorstep because we can't engage, interact. But every single message, text message when I leave, is stay healthy, be safe. That's the new lingo, guys. That's like how we're going to have to greet each other from now. And I'm not even kidding you. There's been 30 people in 2 weeks, and everyone said that at the end. So it's like people are aware of it. I'm hoping they're Googling things and finding out about health and immune system and herbs, you know, because the mainstream media just keeps saying wash your hands. But really, it's about what you put in your body that counts. You know, you can't wash your hands 24/7 and protect yourself all the time. You need to fortify your immune system. So it's a huge wake-up call, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And who would have thought that when we're all like isolated and quarantined, we're connecting with each other more than we've ever been before, right? It's such a paradox, even. So I'm extremely hopeful. I'm seeing a lot of good changes. I know that the fight or flight and the fear mechanisms kick in at a certain point, you know, and right now we're at a good place. It's not taking over. There's no riots or anything like that. We just got to keep going forward. And the people that are here, like right now, and especially people working, listening to this, you know, we are part of the community that wants to give love and receive love. So maybe we can hold ourselves accountable to showing compassion to all those that we come, you know, across. And many of them are in fear. And I remember, Justin, you told me that when this first happened, you were in the grocery store, and I think if I remember correctly, you went up to someone and you said, like, it's all going to be okay. Right? Mm-hmm. And that person needed that, you know, like, mm-hmm. And we might be hopeful and positive and like, like, knew something was going to happen, but there are people that are in hardcore fear. and they need somebody to break through that bubble and just to reassure them, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're able to do that, if you're at a place where you can do that, I say let's all do it.
Great. I love it. Thanks, Neil.
Yeah,
Kalyn?
I'm gonna strategically go last, and you'll we'll see why. So, would you mind? Would you mind going now?
Matt, you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I will make this very short because I know you all got to get out of here. But let me just say at the close of this broadcast, if you are one of those people watching, you are probably amongst the group of individuals that chose to come here at this time for this purpose. Inside each of you exists a great healer and an ancient mystic, and you are now at the choice point in this physical incarnation in which you can take advantage of those multi-dimensional intuitive healing abilities, the ability to discern what is real, what is not real, what is light, what is dark, how to proceed on that most optimal timeline. You really do have the ability, but it's been held back. And so if you're one of those people hearing that and you're wondering, how do I fit in? Where do I go? What do I need to do? Who do I need to find? We are here. There is true multi-dimensional training going on right now that is going to help you understand who you are and why you're here. So I invite each and every person here, please do check out my website, rememberyourmission.com. And most importantly, we are holding a massive free multi-healer group meditation process tomorrow with Eric Rains and Barbara Buck. It is absolutely free at 12 p.m. Pacific, in which we're going to be clearing these very non-physical structures in your body and literally shifting your energy. So I invite everyone to join me, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. It is truly mission activation, you guys. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you,
Kalyn.
Matt. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Justin, for this invitation. Thank you, Laura. I'm sure she's probably watching still from from her phone or something. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the audience perspective. So I'm going to speak directly to the audience, guys, because I am one of you. We are together. All of these brands, these healers, these researchers, these heart-centered wanderer people, like Neil and Justin and Matt and Laura and so many others, right? Like all these offerings that they have, when we can, let's meet them where their offerings, where their offerings meet us, right? So when we can do one of the paid events, when we can buy one of the awesome t-shirts that Justin makes, like when we can get that session with Matthew or a session with Laura, Edge of Wonder, I've got to plug them because they're the most heart-centered, hardworking guys that I've worked with. And, for $10 a month, you have access to Justin and some other, Simon and like Peter Maxwell Slattery and all this stuff that like, all I'm saying is when, let's meet them where their offerings meet us, right? Like, absolutely. Please, I beg you, take advantage of all of these offerings that they're giving, all of the free events, all of the free content, all of the free research. Like, please take advantage of it. That's part of our service to you. And to balance that out, let's also give back when we can. So we know money's tight right now. We know, we get it. We're on the same boat, guys. Like, we're not impervious to what, to the quarantine that's happening. A lot of us are taking hits in our wallets as well. So just remember, as you're offering back to these creators that are offering things to you, donate when you can, buy when you can, subscribe when you can, and then and even beyond monetary, share their articles, like tell other people about them, get the word out. There's so many ways to support these content creators that work so hard to support us, right? So remember, it is all of us. There's no guru paradigm in the fourth dimension, right? In the fourth density. So you guys are just as important as the healers, as the content creators, as the researchers, guys. Like, you're probably more important than any of us, right? Like, it's really about you, because all we can do is give you a little seed. What you guys do with it is where the magic actually happens. So that's my soapbox. That's all I wanted to say. But again, thank you guys. Like, I am humbled and honored to even get to hang out with these guys. You know what I mean? And with everybody and with all of you out there. The only little plug I have for myself is you can find Awakening Humanity as my brand. That is on Facebook as well as Twitter. My personal Twitter is KalynAnn222. And I believe Neil put that down for me as well. there's the launch of the brand Awakening Humanity, which is where I want the audience to tell their story. Like I want to shine the spotlight on humanity. That's going to be launching here very soon. So just subscribe or follow or like or whatever all those terms are, so you guys can find out when and where and how you can share your stories as well.
Thank you so much, Kalyn. Thank you, everybody, for joining, for listening. We're going to hold this space of togetherness, and we're going to weather the storm with no problems. I guarantee it. So thank you so much, everybody. Much love. You can check out my work at stillnessinthestorm.com and keep an eye out for future Werewolf radio shows. We'll be picking up the gavel again next week. So take this time to reflect, and much love, and take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Much love. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Stay weird.
Yeah, chill, guys.